Welcome to Daily Armor. Today we're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter number 5, looking at verse number 7, but we're also going to skip on over to Genesis chapter 3, verse number 6, and then we're going to land on Numbers chapter 13, look at verses 27 through 33. Trying to make a point here, springing from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse number 7, something that I can keep having to remind myself is 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." So I can't go by what I see, but what can I go by? When I see things, and my eyes, what my eyes see can be deceiving. What we hear can be deceiving because we don't see the whole picture. We don't know the whole situation. There's behind the scenes things taking place. A lot of what I do in my everyday walk with the Lord is done behind the scenes. There's things that others don't see me do, and when I really think about that, then it reminds me that there's so many things that I'm not seeing that the Lord is doing, that He is orchestrating the timing, and He is orchestrating the circumstances, and there's so many factors that I don't see, and I'm reminded of that from time to time. And I'm trying to remind myself right now, don't go by what I see. Don't even go by what I hear. Soak it all in, ponder on it, take it to the Lord in prayer. What can I go by? What it boils down to is going by whatever God says. And sometimes He said yes, sometimes He says no, and most of the time in my life He says wait. Wait for the right time, the right moment, the right circumstances, all of that He is orchestrating, that He is in control of. And don't step in too soon. Don't be pushed to feel like you have to make a decision. Just wait on Him. I want to give us a couple of examples of when we see some things that look like it would be good, but we have to go back on what God says. We have to go by what He says. Not walking by faith is going on the word of the Lord. That's what that means. We are going on what He said, no matter what it looks like. Let's look at Genesis chapter 3 and verse number 6. Genesis 3 and verse number 6 says, "And when the woman saw," this is what she saw, "that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat." Now it looked good. It looked like it would be wonderful for food. But what's the problem? The problem is that God said no. God said, you can have all of this other stuff. I have supplied you with everything else that you can have. But this, I told you no. This is not for you. And she saw that it was good for food. She saw that it was pleasant. She was enticed by what she saw. And I don't want to be enticed by what I see. I get aggravated at myself when I'm enticed by what I see, because I'm like, Lord, just because it looks enticing, just because it looks like, something that I would like to have or do or whatever, what it boils down to is, but God, what do you want? What do you want? And Eve here, she saw, but the answer was no, and she wasn't supposed to. Now, what about when it's a yes? Sometimes there's a yes involved, and sometimes there's a yes involved, and that's kind of scary too. Sometimes we're afraid to seize opportunities. Sometimes we're afraid because it looks overwhelming and it's more than we can handle. That's okay, because it's not about what we can handle anyway. But now let's flip over to Numbers chapter number 13. And I want to look at verses 27 all the way down to the end of the chapter, which is 33. If we start at 27, this is when the spies went to report back the land flowing with milk and honey. They got to go see what God had in store for them. They got to have a little glimpse of it. That was to entice them, something to go after. Why? Because God had already said, I'm giving you this. This is yours. This is your next step. But when the people saw, they were a little overwhelmed. Oh, but we can't handle this. It wasn't about what we can handle. It's not about what I can handle. It's not about what you can handle, but it's about what God is doing and what God is allowing. And sometimes there's a yes involved, but then fear sets in and we're afraid to take that next step. So let's look here at verse number 27. And they told him and said, we came into the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. So they're bringing back proof of what God said. It was flowing with milk and honey. This was beautiful property. This was gorgeous land. This was the promised land, the land that God promised. He promised that he was giving it to them, not them getting it for themselves, but he promised that this was for them from him. Nevertheless, there's a but there. Nevertheless, the people be strong. So they're seeing all these strong people that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled. They're seeing all these great walled cities, and they're thinking, how in the world? We're not going to be able to do anything with this. And very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. They saw all these people that were so much bigger than them, that was so much more beyond what they were able to do. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and so then they're feeling like we're going to be surrounded by the enemy. Verse number 29, the Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. They're thinking, we're going to get in the midst of all this? This is crazy, because they're going by what they saw and forgetting about what God said. What God says is how we walk by faith. Our faith is not in, my faith is not in me. My faith is not in you. My faith is not in anybody else. My faith is in what God said, what he says. That's how we walk by faith. We walk by what he says. Look here at verse number 30. And Caleb stilled the people. He's trying to calm them down. They're talking to Moses, and the people are getting upset by what they're hearing. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once. He's like, God is giving us all this. God said that this is his gift to us. Caleb is ready to go out by faith, not by he's not looking at what he sees as an obstacle. He's looking at what he sees as the opportunity. Why? Because God said it. Not because Caleb thought he was all that. No, but because he believed what God said. When we're walking by faith, we're simply believing what God says. We're walking by faith. Our faith is in the word of the Lord. It's in his word. Every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. That's how we walk. We don't walk by what the flesh wants. We don't walk by what the eyes see or the ears hear. We walk by the mouth of the Lord. Not by what everybody else is seeing, not what everybody else is saying, not about all this other stuff, but what came from the mouth of the Lord. And I'm telling you, his word is all here. This is the mouth of the Lord right here. He has a word for us. He's had it written down for us to study, for us to listen to heed to obey. It's all right here. But see, there's that but verse number 31. But the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that saw in it, that we saw in it, are men of a great stature. He's like, it's too much. And verse number 33, and there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Getting all my words mixed up today. If you read along with me, then you'll know what so we were in their sight. So from our perspective, we can't go. But Caleb's saying, yes, let's go right now. Why? Because of what God said. Caleb knows this was a yes moment. This was a yes moment because God had already said yes. He had already said yes. It was just now it's getting time to actually go through with it, to follow through with it. But it's a little overwhelming, but it's more than I can handle. But I don't understand, but that's not how we walk. We walk by faith. So what does that boil down to? We can't go by what we see or hear out there, but we do go by whatever God says. If He says go, we go. If He says wait, we wait. If He says no, then we don't. So it's by getting that word from the Lord. So that 2 Corinthians 5, verse number 7 says, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon.